let's talk about last night's episode of Rain. And it was a pretty good episode. It got off to a slow start, but picked up some momentum towards the end. And we started off with Nostradamus having a vision of war and that it was going to come to the castle in France. And of course, Queen Catherine, you know, was nervous that this was going to somehow affect her family, and she's going off about, if anybody in my family gets harmed because of this, people will pay. Okay, we get it. So Queen Mary now is still having to deal with the fact that the king, Henry, has not decided on a wedding day between her and Francis. And Queen Mary is visited by somebody from Scotland, and he basically tells her that things in Scotland are not good, and the England is coming and is creating war with us, and we need to send troops there, so you guys need to solidify this arrangement and be married so that we can use some of your troops here to help us out. So of course Mary goes to King Henry, and she asks him, she's like, listen, we need your help. Like, Scotland is in trouble, and that is what this alliance is supposed to be about. And he doesn't think that it's a good time to send anybody over there because he doesn't want to lose his men. And so she feels like she's being shut out, and she's like, they're not living up to their agreement, and she's not happy about this at all. So at this time, we have a visitor from Portugal, and his name is Tomas, and he's the bastard son of the King of Portugal. So he really doesn't have a title, but he informs Queen Mary that his father is in the process of having him be his legitimate first heir. And he tells her, listen, I like you. I think you've got a great energy, and you've got a wonderful personality. And if you marry me, then I will send my men from Portugal to Scotland to help you out. And so she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because on one hand, she has this relationship with Francis that she's known him since she was 6 years old, and they've been promised, and this is an alliance that's supposed to happen. But it hasn't happened. And now she has this man, Tomas, who she doesn't really care about. And he's promising her that he will take care of her, and he will protect her country, and he will send troops right away. And, so she's like, what am I supposed to do? And then when Francis finds out about this, he gets jealous, and he goes to his father, and he's like, listen, I think that we should help her out here, because like, this is what we've promised. And he basically threatens his father and says, listen, I know you've had eyes for all these women, and you're cheating on mom, and you're cheating on your mistress. Isn't that funny? And I will tell people if you don't help me out here. And so his father is actually quite proud of him, because he said, okay, finally, now you're stepping up, and you're becoming the king that you could be. In other words, you're being ruthless. And he likes that. He admires that about his son. So he agrees. And he says, send our quickest man on horse to go tell them that to send our troops over to Scotland. So who does he get? He gets Bash. And Bash hasn't really been in this episode, but he goes and he gets Bash, and Bash agrees. He's like, yes, if this will help you, if this will help the alliance, if this will keep Mary here, then I'll do it. So he goes, he leaves on horseback, and he takes off. So, Francis goes to Mary, and he tells her, listen, I went to my father, and it's done. We're sending troops. And she's like, oh, wow, I can't believe this. And then, they have a nice little smile. Now, right at the beginning of the episode, Queen Mary and all of her ladies in waiting were all, gossiping around and talking about their favorite kisses and their first kisses and who was the best kisser. And, some of them are basically saying that they've never been kissed. And a couple of them are like, oh, I've been kissed, but they were boys, and I need a man, and all this. And so we find out that Queen Mary has actually never been kissed. And neither has one of her other girlfriends, and I cannot quite remember her name, but she actually had the eyes on Tomas. But he, was never going to look at her that way. And we quickly find out that, Mary is the one that he wants. So there's this a gala that they had, and the king, Tomas takes Mary, and he on this like Portuguese kind of dance, and they have a fun time. And of course her girlfriend's jealous, and she's upset, and she storms off, and she ends up going to the kitchen, where she ends up hanging out with one of the servants. And they hit it off and they have a great conversation and he kisses her and she's like, ah, how could you, how dare you, you know what I mean, you're just a servant. And she's just basically like, she doesn't have much power herself. She's basically a woman who doesn't have a title. She's not from money, and so she has to marry into money in order to become anything. And she basically tells him that, you know, her family is depending on her to marry a rich man so that they can be provided for. So it's kind of sad that that is like the reality of these women who, you know, they're basically only become powerful because of the men that they marry. Anyway, so we quickly find out that this boy is going to be the one that she will probably ultimately be in love with. And it's cute, but you know, obviously that's going to happen down the road. So we return now to Francis and Mary, and his brother Bash comes back and he's wounded and he's like gravely injured, and this is the vision that Nostradamus had at the very beginning of the episode where he saw somebody being stabbed and all this. So, you know, obviously Francis feels guilty and he feels that because his father basically tells him, listen, this is what happens when you follow your heart. We knew something bad could happen, and this is what happens. And so it's almost like his way of saying, you cannot lead with your heart. You have to lead with like an iron fist kind of thing. And you can't let your emotions guide your decisions. And so we get to the end now, and Mary is basically saying, listen, you made the right decision to send your brother out there. You can't, like, don't feel guilty. And he grabs her and he kisses her, and it's a really cute kiss, and it's sweet, and you can tell that she's like overwhelmed by it. And then he says, go marry Tomas, because this is what you need and you'll be happier there because I can't give you what you need. And it's really sad, and she basically goes to Tomas and she accepts his proposal. And you know, then he sends, and there was a vision that Nostradamus, another vision that he had where he said something like, the lions will fight the lions will fight the dragons on the fields of poppies, or something like that. And right at the end, when Tomas is standing there with Mary and he's looking at all of his ships that are about to go off to save the people in Scotland, you know, they lower their flag and it's basically got a dragon on it. So obviously England has the lions, and so it's obviously the premonition that they will fight them on the fields of poppies. So, you know, they're standing there watching the ships go off, and you can see Mary looking off in the distance like, is she making the right decision? Probably not, but we'll see what happens. So, you know, things started to pick up towards the end of this episode, which was great. We saw Francis kind of standing up for himself against his father, letting him know that he can be ruthless if he needs to be. He can pull out a card whenever it suits him. You can tell that he is upset that, you know, he has to let Mary go, that he is jealous, that he does have feelings for her. And it was kind of cute to see. So we'll see what happens with this power play next episode. And that's my review of Reign.